Yes, ma'am. Madam Secretary, Brian, nice to meet you.
Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Kristi Noem. I'm the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. We're here in Nashville today to highlight some of the excellent work that the Department of Homeland Security has been doing with HSI and ICE officers and agents here in this area. This office oversees not just operations within Nashville, but also throughout Tennessee and Kentucky, and they also are a key component to our investigative efforts that we put into the breaking up of drug and human trafficking rings. I'm so proud of this office and the agents that work here and in this area for what they do to protect children every day and what they do to protect United States citizens and get criminals off of our streets. President Trump has been focused ever since he's been in office on making America safe again. And that is what my job is as a secretary, is to make sure that we're following through on exactly what he promised the American people, to make sure that we're going after the worst of the worst every single day, get the murderers, the rapists, the child pedophiles and pornographers off of our streets and out of this country so that they can be brought to justice and face the consequences for their actions. Since President Trump has taken office, we have arrested almost 300,000 and more criminals and illegal aliens here in the United States of America and brought them to justice and deported them out of our country. 70% of those individuals have criminal charges that they are convicted of, or they have criminal charges that are pending against them. Overwhelmingly, the families that live in this country are thrilled to have these people off of their streets so that they can continue to raise their children in a country where they can live safely, send their kids to school, and go to sleep peacefully in their beds at night each and every day. Here in Tennessee, HSI Nashville has arrested some individuals that I want to highlight specifically that are tied to foreign terrorist organizations as designated by President Trump's administration, and also tied to gang organizations that are not only present here in this country, but also internationally as well. 2 Venezuelan nationals with ties to Tren de Aragua have been arrested here. This was done back in January, and their crimes include promoting prostitution and evading arrest. In February, HSI Nashville arrested a 35-year-old Venezuelan charged with homicide after he stabbed his own wife to death. HSI also arrested a 33-year-old illegal alien that was from El Salvador. This individual was affiliated with the MS-13 gang, and he's the subject of a red notice that we participate with Interpol, and is wanted in El Salvador as well for aggravated murder. In January, HSI Nashville here arrested a 22-year-old Guatemalan who was an illegal alien here in this country. The charges against this individual count 3 charges of child rape, sexual exploitation of a minor, and identity theft. Also arrested here is a 60-year-old illegal alien from Iraq. His criminal history includes convictions of rape, larceny, and false imprisonment. And last but not least, that I'll highlight here individually today, is we all remember the story of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 member. He was a human trafficker, a domestic abuser, a criminal illegal alien, and a national of El Salvador, and a member of MS-13. The mainstream media consistently tries to defend this individual as an innocent Maryland man, but I will be very clear, this man has a history and decades-long ties to a gang that has been convicted of human trafficking, and he himself has been deeply tied to those horrific charges and criminal activities. He's here in Nashville currently on federal charges for human trafficking, and the grand jury's indictment describes a monster. Abrego was a full-time human trafficker who would brutally abuse women under his control and even solicited individuals for child pornography. Now, all of these criminals are evil. They're horrible human beings. They're the worst of the worst. And America is safer because they're off of our streets, because of the work of the individuals behind me, but all of the agents and officials within HSI and ICE. Rioters, criminal thugs, legacy media, open border politicians, often you'll hear them standing up and defending the evil criminals that I've been talking about. And in the meantime, what they're doing is smearing and doxing our agents and putting them and their families at risk. Leftists have doxed, attacked, and tried to intimidate the men and women who uphold our laws and keep our streets safe. And now our ICE officers are facing an 830% increase in violence against them and their families. One of the open border politicians is right here in this state and is right here in this city. and I'm specifically calling out the mayor of Nashville. Mayor Freddie O'Connell has gone after our ICE individuals and agents that work with HSI. He's openly doxed them, revealed their information to the public, encouraged people to work against them in their efforts to clean up the streets of Nashville, and he has forced his city officials, his employees of the city of Nashville, to document every single interaction that they have with federal immigration authorities. What the mayor is doing to the city is shameful, and what he needs to do is participate with us and make sure that he's helping us uphold the rule of law. Listen, if people don't like the laws in this country, go to Congress and change them. But what these agents do every single day is to uphold the law and make sure that it applies equally to everyone, and that criminals aren't placed above the American citizens that live in this city and live in this state and in this country. O'Connell and his administration are playing politics, and they're playing politics to a dangerous level that's risking people's lives. Despite the mayor's reckless behavior, we're going to continue to enforce the law here in Nashville. We're going to continue to fight to keep families safe, and here in this city, but also in this state, and continue throughout the country. Bringing violent criminals to justice is our priority, and doing so in order to make America safe again is what we will work to do every single day. We're also seeing similar acts of injustices happen in Nashville by other entities as well. We're seeing obstruction against federal immigration law by Belmont University. As you know, they have openly said that they will house illegal immigrants on their campus and do that in defiance of the federal government. President Trump campaigned on immigration enforcement. The American people voted for immigration enforcement. They voted to clean up their streets and get these criminals out of our country. I'm very proud of the fact that since President Trump has been in office, we have removed over 600 known and suspected terrorists out of the United States of America, that we have brought thousands of gang members from MS-13, TDA, and brought them to justice and deported them out of our country. We're continuing to go after these criminals to protect American citizens. And now that the President's big, beautiful bill is passed, we have the resources to double down. We will bring more agents to Nashville. We will bring more resources to this state. And we will make sure that even though politicians continue to play politics and try to lie about what the work is that we're doing to make America safe again, that we will continue to fight for the families that live here and make sure that these child pedophiles, these rapists, and these murderers are off our streets. We will never apologize for protecting the American people. President Trump is working hard every day to make sure that this is a country where the rule of law is applied equally to everybody, that illegal criminals are not placed above or prioritized above the American citizens that live here and work and are just pursuing the American dream. So with that, I will close and open it up to any questions that you may have. Yes, way in the back.
So you said that there's an 830% increase in these attacks against ICE agents.
Yes.
We've seen a lot of rhetoric, heated rhetoric. One congressman saying that people need to be willing to bleed in their opposition to ICE. Who do you blame for this massive rise of violence against ICE agents?
I would say it's the rhetoric of elected officials, of leaders, leftist organizations, and the media. When they don't tell the truth, there's consequences for that. When they don't talk about the facts of what's happening out on our streets and what the American people need, then it gets distorted and the information is used in a way that can undermine what the rule of law is. I would encourage every single media entity that's here today to go talk to an ICE agent about what their job is, what they've been told their priorities are, and what it's like for their family every single day to go out in the streets and try to go after these criminals. The Trump administration has specifically targeted the worst of the worst. The individuals that we are going after are those that are violent criminals, those that are breaking our laws, and those that have final removal orders. And in many of these places, we've negotiated for their safe return back to their own home country. And if they're criminals, they will face consequences for their crimes. I'm grateful for the fact that we have a president that stands up for the everyday American, and I would be thrilled if people would talk about the fact that when you get a rapist off the street, how many families have we protected? When you get a murderer off the street, a pedophile off the street, look at the families that will never have to be victims because that work was done. Too much time is spent focusing on these criminals when you should be focusing on the people who have been victims in the past and the fact that we're stopping future people from becoming victims as well. Yes?
President Owen, you speak of the worst of the worst that the Trump administration is going after. You see these four individuals who are 70% of them you say that ICE is picking up have criminal convictions and charges. Why not release their names in the rap sheets and investigate?
Well, many times the investigations are still ongoing. or they have lawyers where there's appeals going on. And so we follow the rule of law and give everybody their due process rights, but make sure that we're pursuing these criminal cases so that these individuals can face consequences for their crimes. This office here specifically is one of the most outstanding offices that we have in this nation for going after child exploitation rings and child trafficking and human trafficking. So I'm so thankful for their investigative work. They're breaking up trafficking rings that have been filtering internationally and have been using Nashville as a hub. I would encourage the mayor here to partner with them instead of fighting them, because by his rhetoric and by what he is requiring his city employees to do, and by not having the backs of these law enforcement officers, he's allowing more children to be trafficked, more children to be victimized, and more families to suffer because of his actions and his politics.
But for those who are convicted and be deported, why not reduce their names and their actions?
Oftentimes they are. Oftentimes they are. And also we have security agreements that we have negotiated with foreign countries as well, their home countries. I've been to probably 10 different foreign countries that most of these illegal criminals have come from, met with their presidents, met with their leaders, and negotiated them sharing information with us. Extradition agreements. We want the data on who they know is in our country that's dangerous, and then also when we return someone back to their country that is a criminal, that is a murderer or a violent rapist or abuser, that they're facing consequences in their home country as well. And I would encourage everybody, there's a lot of things being said in the media. If there is someone that's in this country illegally and they're concerned about being here and interacting with our immigration officials, go home. You have the opportunity today to go back to your home country. If you go home, we will buy you a plane ticket. We will, when you land, give you $1,000 so that you can get started on your feet and provide food and housing for your family. And you have the opportunity to come back to the United States the right way. You have the opportunity to come here and to pursue the American dream. But if you wait until you get detained by our officers and get encountered or are surrounded by individuals who are breaking the law and get deported, you will never get the chance to come back to the United States of America. And many of the times when I've traveled to these other countries and visited with their presidents and their governments, they have established now programs to help support their citizens that are coming back to their countries. Many of these countries are setting up loan programs for houses when people come back, training for jobs that they need to have filled in their countries. They're giving children scholarships that are coming home so they can get an education and get their feet under them. So when you look at Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia, Panama, many of these countries, Mexico that I've visited, many of them are setting up programs so that when people do come home, that they have the opportunity to have a job and an education that they've never had before. And I'm proud of that work that's being done so that when individuals do things the right way, they can be rewarded for that. Yes.
Madam Secretary, Tennessee has a lot of farmers that may rely on migrant workers to be able to yield their crops. So what's your message to them on what they should do?
You know, what I would tell them is we've got visa programs that they can participate in to help them with their workforce issues. The H-2A visa program is under my purview, and I don't have a limit on how many of those I can issue. I would encourage them to reach out, and we can help them meet that workforce if the need is there. Many times there's people in this country as well that are looking to fill positions, but I will be very clear in saying that there will be no amnesty under the Trump administration. That individuals who are here illegally, we're hopeful that they will come and do it the right way, and that we'll make sure that we streamline and get rid of the bureaucratic hiccups and things that have slowed down the process in the past. We are streamlining the paperwork process and the application process so it's much quicker and responsive to the needs that farmers have. Yes?
Because you singled out Kilmar Habergo, I want to ask you about some of the witnesses giving testimony against him. 3 of these people have been deported multiple times. Now they're receiving some kind of pardon to stay in the U.S. Can you talk about who granted these permissions and why is this allowed for some of these people who have been deported prior, who have been convicted felons, to stay in the U.S.?
Yeah, no, I can't speak to the specifics of how some of the case negotiations have been conducted, but I am grateful that this man is being brought to justice. He has a lifetime history of trafficking individuals and of taking advantage of minors, soliciting pornography from them, nude photos of them, abusing his wife, abusing other illegals, aliens that were in this country, women that were under his care while he was trafficking them. He's a horrible human being and a monster, and he should never be released free.
All that is evidence that the judge finds hard to believe because it's based on the testimony testimony of these three witnesses.
I hope this judge does the right thing and brings this man to justice for the crimes that he has committed. The evidence is overwhelming, and this judge needs to make sure that he applies the law equally to every single person that shows up in his courtroom.
And then I do want to ask you, because ICE operations are taking place predominantly in Latino communities. Can you
And I wouldn't say that's true. You know, I would say that the media has highlighted operations like that, but we have operations ongoing throughout the country every single day in communities everywhere. So I would not say that anyone could show that they're highlighted in Hispanic communities. They're highlighted in areas that we know we have investigative work and casework to show that we may have enforcement mechanisms that need to be put in place because we have criminal activities ongoing.
Well, my audience is predominantly Latino, so they kind of every day say they're fearful because a lot of people have been targeted based on their skin color, not necessarily.
That is not
their
true.
legal status.
And so that has been another false narrative that has been put out there in the media that I absolutely want to throw back at you and say that is absolutely false, and don't you dare ever say that again. We have judges out there and other individuals saying people have been targeted that way, and it's not true. Every single operation that we do on ICE is based on investigative work and on casework to show that there is a reason and reasonable suspicion to go into an area and to talk and look at individuals that are involved in criminal activity. So because that is a narrative that people have been out there saying doesn't make it true, and it should not be repeated. Yes.
Two questions. First one, just you mentioned the budget increase. Excuse me, it's going to be coming to ICE. Beyond just more personnel, more boots on the ground here, I mean, what do you see as what Nashvilleians will see in the city in terms of enforcement detention over the next few years? What's that going to actually look like?
Well, what the people of Nashville will see is obviously more individuals and more agents, but they'll also see more training and equipment. We'll see more investigative tools that will be able to be utilized. My hope is that we also get the chance to work with the Department of Justice to get more immigration judges. Many times we have individuals who wait a long time to get through the immigration process, and that is one of the reasons that people point to while people get anxious to come into our country illegally is because it takes so long to do it the right way. So not only do we want to get our casework when we bring someone into our detainment processed quickly so that we can get a decision made, but also those individuals who want to come here legally, that we have the opportunity to do so in a much more streamlined manner.
Are we likely to see more facilities kind of erected here in Middleton?
I don't think we necessarily will see more facilities. What we need is when we have a city like Nashville where the mayor is playing politics and not necessarily they're backing up our officers, you'll see more individuals to make sure that these officers are out on the street and have enough force to keep themselves safe while they do their work.
And then just one follow-up on the due process. It's standard within law enforcement to release names and charges before people have gone through trial or through that legal process. I mean, that is part of due process. How can we, the press, and by extension the public, ensure that the federal government is ensuring due process if we're not allowed to know the names of these people and the charges?
We are following due process on every single case. I'm not sure if you're talking specifically about a case or two, but I can follow up with you after the press conference and see if there's some you're not getting. But if we are not giving you names and data and information, it is because we are following the law and ensuring that every individual gets the due process that they need. Now, due process looks different based on what case it is and who the individual is, but we will continue to make sure that we're focusing on following the law and making sure we're bringing criminals to justice.
Do you think we'd see more names released?
We will release names as we are allowed to by the law.
In the case of Kilmar Grego Garcia, there's been a lot of discussion on whether he will be deported if he's released ahead of trial. What's your perspective on whether to have him deported and potentially not stand trial because he'll be in another country? How would that work, and what's the perspective?
He's standing trial now, and I hope he faces consequences for his crimes. And that will be something that we will be able to deliver for the people that have been victimized by him and his actions over the years. And then when that is done and that process is over, he should never be allowed to be free in the United States of America. So even if he goes home to his home country, my hope is that he will be incarcerated there for the rest of his life as well.
Will he remain in the United States up until the point of trial?
That's not under my purview, but my hope is that he would be able to face consequences for his crimes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Secretary, what do you think about the Dignity Act of 2025 that Republican Maria Vera Salazar introduced? Do you support it?
Well, I've not read the act as she introduced it. I've talked to Maria extensively about it and her ideas in this legislation, and I think it's a great discussion for Congress to have. We'll continue to work with her and with the White House on what we can do to look at immigration law in this country and see what we can do to meet some of the needs that we have. Listen, immigration reform has been needed for many, many years, and I appreciate her and her leadership in bringing forward a bill that can start that discussion. Yes.
Just talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, you've mentioned that he is, in fact, an MS-13 member. There was witness testimony that the attorney for Kilmar Abrego Garcia disputed that said that there were no signs or markings and he was, in fact, an MS-13 gang member. So what criteria has DHS used to, in fact, label him an MS-13 gang member?
There's a large case built against Abrego Garcia, and people will continue to see that throughout trial, and they'll continue to see that throughout this case. I will say that him consistently being surrounded and working with those gang members to traffic individuals across the state for many, many years and working in conjunction with them and targeting individuals of rival gangs against MS-13 and even helping to help facilitate the murder of a mother of one of the rival gangs that is opposed to MS-13. All of that builds into a case of work that has been done for many years against this individual. He is a monster. And he is tied to a terrorist organization that has perpetuated violence against human beings for many, many years. My hope is that he will stand trial and get the consequences of his actions and that justice will be served for his victims.
And you brought up Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connor, that he's been going after ICE agents. I had an interaction with him when he said the real concern is not releasing the names of ICE agents, but the...
No, that is a real concern. It is a real concern that he has jeopardized them and their families. They face violent acts. Their families are targeted. They're doxxed. Their personal information is put out there, and people are treating them horrifically. And he needs to stop and knock it off and grow up and act like a leader and start sending his law enforcement officers to have our backs. Because what we are doing is upholding the law. We are upholding the law every single day. If he doesn't like the law, go change it. Go to the federal government and change the law. But what we are doing here is making our streets safer for the people of Nashville, and the people of Nashville overwhelmingly support getting criminals off of their streets. He should be helping us do that.
Well, he's saying that the unmasking of that ICE agents need to be unmasked, that that's the real concern.
So Mayor O'Connell's much more worried about victimizing our law enforcement officers than he is going after criminals? This guy's priorities are completely screwed up, and he doesn't deserve to be a mayor. He doesn't deserve to be in office. Yes?
Secretary, do you have any specific information you can share with us about the number of additional agents or the additional resources you plan to bring to Nashville or Tennessee?
Well, that analysis is getting done. We will have dozens of more officers and agents that will be here in the Nashville area. And we will continue to make sure that there are resources not just in Nashville but throughout the state, and also this office covers Kentucky as well. So we will do an analysis of where we see criminal activity and where we need those individuals to make sure that we can have people go forward and do their operations and do them safely. Clearly, when there is a sanctuary city or there's a sanctuary state, we're going to have to put more federal officers there because there's not a cooperative agreement with the local and state law enforcement that has their backs and allows them to conduct their operations safely. So when you're looking at a city like New York City or Nashville or Chicago, Illinois, we're going to have to put more federal officers there in order to run our operations safely. But we have over 800 agreements across this country with other city, local, and state officials that partner with us every single day. And we're so thrilled to have those leaders in those cities being grateful that we're there cleaning up their streets and getting dangerous individuals off their streets. Thousands and thousands of mayors and governors and local officials and sheriffs and city council members across this country are partnering with us and working with us every day so that when we go out and do an operation, they have our backs. And they're helping us secure locations, and they're partnering with us. It's unfortunate we don't have that kind of working relationship here in Nashville. And last question.
Madam Secretary, back in May, ICE agents cooperated with THP troopers for traffic enforcement stop. So far, we've been blocked by local and state authorities to look at biographical data for those people to ensure Hispanics weren't unlawfully being targeted. Will ICE release that data if locals won't?
Do you have any indication that anybody was targeted just specifically because of what their race or creed was?
CAD reports that I have right now on those show disproportionately Hispanic people being stopped and detained.
Every single enforcement action that we have, an operation, every single enforcement operation that we have conducted has been based on a casework and investigative reports on criminal activities and where we know that there is those types of things going on and individuals are located.
Would you suggest
All right,
they release
good.
that information out to this-
We will release any information that's available that we can according to the law. And we have been extremely transparent. This has been the most transparent administration that we have had in a very long time on operations that we have on the ground. And that's one of the things that makes me so proud to work for President Trump, is that he has been an open book on making sure that he's following through on exactly what the American people have asked him to do. Focus on, number one, securing the border. For 2 months in a row now, we have 0 illegal aliens that have crossed our borders and come into this country. And that is one thing that has done amazing results in making sure that we're keeping Americans safe. The second thing he has promised to do, that overwhelmingly the American people wanted him to, was to get the worst of the worst off of our streets. And so our focus is there, and that's what we will continue to do, is to provide operations that remove these murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and human traffickers and drug traffickers off of our streets. When you look at the table in front of me, these are all drugs and guns that have been taken off of the streets from this office and this area, this state, that are no longer out there killing our children, that are no longer out there perpetuating drug addiction and splitting up families and conducting violence on the streets. They have been brought into and taken away from criminals and terrorist organizations because of the work that these officers do. My hope is that we can continue to do this kind of work and do it in a way that makes sure that we're honoring our law enforcement officers and we're recognizing the rule of law needs to be enforced and enhanced here in the United States. That's what the American people demanded, and that's what President Trump is following through on. So thank you. You guys have a wonderful day.
Are you concerned about people impersonating ICE agents?
Does it not make the U.S. less safe if